How's it going today, guys? It's Jacob Haugh here with
Shayne Williamson.
and welcome back to this week's installment of Jay and
Shays.
Sports for Dummies. We've got a lot to talk about today, and we're going to keep you updated with the NFL, NBA, college football, college hoops, and like we promised, today we even have our first installment of the NHL.
Yep.
We're going to lead it off with the NHL, if you're fine with that one.
Sure.
Atop the Eastern Conference in the NHL, you have the Capitals, Islanders, and Bruins. The Bruins are on fire with vets on this team displaying their leadership, splitting goalie work between Rask and Halleck. Then you get the Islanders. They're under Trotz now. They've given up the fewest goals in the league, and they played solid defense through the small portion of the year. And then if you're looking at the Caps, they're averaging a crazy 4 goals per game, and arguably the scariest team to face in the league.
Local squad. Then on top of the Western Conference are the Blues and the Oilers. The Blues, despite having to say goodbye to Tarasenko for 5 months while he has shoulder surgery and have the possibility of not having him at all this year, depending on how his recovery goes, they have been picking up wins. Whether or not that is consistent or will stay consistent for the rest of the year is up in the air. And then the Oilers have proved they can pick up wins early with the strong trio of McDavid, Draziati, am I saying that right? And Neal, as they account for 31 goals this season.
So that's our first flash of some NHL for you, and we're going to try to learn some storylines for you guys and keep you guys updated.
Yep.
Now let's get to some football. This is our beef. This is our tenderloin. This is everything we love about this podcast. The NFL. This year, the NFL has proven that any team can win on any given Sunday unless you're from Cincinnati. Quick hitters. We're just going to give you little recaps of some of the games that we thought were interesting from this weekend. The Browns beat the Bills in Cleveland.
Buffalo is the most fraudulent 6-win team in the NFL.
Chicago finally gets it together on offense against Jeff Driscoll and the Lions, not Matt Stafford.
Yeah, I wish I knew that before I picked the Lions.
Nobody did.
Yeah.
Dolphins win again.
Yeah, the Colts, Brian Hoyer, not good. They really need Jacoby Brissett back. It's looking like he's on track to start again this week.
And then if we move on, it's the Saints getting stunned at home against the Falcons.
That was a very weird one. Anything can happen in rivalry games. That's been
Divisional.
one of the hottest rivalry games in the past few years. Down year for the Falcons, but they still have talent and they showed it in New Orleans.
Scratch the word good. The Steelers' defense is great. And they proved that this past weekend against Jared Goff and the Rams. They handled them.
Yep.
Tell me how many offensive touchdowns the Rams had. 0.
You can't see my hand, but I have a 0.
And then if we're looking, I don't want you to boost it. If we look past the Steelers in this division, is Lamar the MVP?
Listen, right now, no. But listen, the Ravens have the Texans, the Rams, and the 49ers in the next 3 weeks. If the Ravens go 3-0, he'll be the MVP frontrunner.
Kansas City with Mahomes loses to Tannehill in Tennessee. Now, last week's show, I told you this was a possibility.
Yeah.
And I still picked the Chiefs. And you said if Matt Moore plays, the Chiefs lose. But if Mahomes plays, the Chiefs win.
Yeah.
We were both wrong.
Yes, very much so.
What do you think? What do you think's going on in Tennessee? We'll get to Kansas City. But what do you think's going on with Tennessee?
Tannehill has just injected life into that team. They've always been a weird team, like the past 3 years since Mike Vrabel's been head coach. Like, they're one of those teams where you look at them and like, oh, the Titans are bad, but they're like, they beat teams they shouldn't beat, and then they're always in the playoff picture, and it's more the same this year. Tannehill's got them rolling, and that was a really weird result from Sunday.
And then the games we picked, the one we bickered at the most with, I'm going to say it first. I was right.
Sure. Yeah, you got it.
The classic that happened on Monday Night Football, if you stayed up till the next day to keep watching.
As you should have.
In San Fran. Wow. What a game.
Yeah,
it was a Seahawks, 49ers, Russell Wilson proved that he can crack under pressure. He's proved that he is human with that interception at the goal line.
Yep.
What are your initial thoughts coming out of San Francisco? Are the 49ers a real contender?
Not as long as Jimmy Garoppolo's under center, because he's a turnover machine. That contract they gave him is kind of wild because of how little he's actually played. They win a lot with him under center, but to take that next step into being a championship contender, he needs to stop turning the ball over so much.
Is the defense good enough to the point that they can carry him?
I think on most days, yes, but when you start getting into the elite offenses and quarterbacks, Russell Wilson obviously got them over the hump. I think if they face a Tom Brady, that won't be good enough to get them over the hump. But against average, mediocre teams, bad teams, they can. But when you start getting into the upper echelon, it gets a little shaky.
One thing I want to talk about is Chase McLaughlin.
Mm-hmm.
Or Chase McLaughlin. I don't know how to say your name, buddy, but you make that field goal. We're having a completely different conversation right now.
I would have been right, dude.
And but I will give you an update on our prediction records next week on Jay and Shay. We got to keep things trim this week.
Yep.
We're gonna give you some quick predictions tonight. Pittsburgh, Cleveland. It's in Cleveland, if I believe.
Mm-hmm.
If I believe so, I'm right. Quarterback battle. Who would you rather have, Baker Mayfield or Mason Rudolph, and why?
Baker Mayfield every day of the week plus twice on Sundays, which is they're not playing on Sunday. Because he's still very talented. He's still the guy who broke the rookie record for most passing touchdowns in a season, and he didn't even start all 16. That guy is still there. I just think it's something up with Freddie Kitchens and that offense as a whole, but I do think that he'll turn it around in the second half of the year, especially because they have a light schedule.
So you think it lands on coaching rather than play?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Their play calls have been mediocre at best this year.
I like that system that they're using right now, putting their 4 best players on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Kareem Hunt, Bradley Chubb. Is it Nick Chubb?
Nick Chubb.
Nick Chubb, excuse me. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, who's been running out of his mind, is the top 5 rushers of the league.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Odell and Jarvis Landry all on the field. And you put Hunt and Chubb in the backfield right next to Mayfield. I mean,
it's a lot to think about.
As a defense, you would not like that problem.
Nah.
But you're 3-6, and you haven't had Hunt all season until last game, and it wasn't really convincing.
No, it wasn't at all. This
is your opportunity, if you're Baker Mayfield, to take a little dip into the playoff picture if you could. And I think tonight decides the fate of both of these teams.
Yeah.
Big game. I got Pittsburgh in Cleveland.
Give me Cleveland. I think Baker Mayfield, national TV, he's been kind of fuming. Everyone's been taking shots at him. I think he has a big game today.
I don't know if I want to stay with my pick, man. I really don't know. I have a lot of faith in this defense for the Steelers, but I don't know how Mason Rudolph is going to fare against these Browns. I'm going to stick to it. Give me the Steelers by 1.
Okay.
Jets at Landover against the Redskins.
Sure.
Give me a Super Bowl replay on NFL Network. That's what I would rather do right now.
Literally anything else. I'm going to do laundry during that game.
Give me Sam Darnold and the Jets in Washington.
Same. Yeah. Sure.
Saints,
Jets.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Interesting game. Bucks need to keep their season alive. Saints coming off a terrible loss. And the Bucks coming off a win, like both of us predicted, against the Cardinals. Actually, I think you predicted the Cardinals.
Yeah, I took Arizona.
Oh, wow.
I took Arizona.
I'm taking shots today, y'all. I had to get him back for the first week, man. He ripped me in the first week of picks. But does Tampa Bay pull it out at home against the Saints?
No. I think Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara, I think they get it together. Michael Thomas gets a lot more targets this week, and that offense in general just gets it together, and I think they win big in Tampa Bay. Big bounce-back game.
Look out for Mike Evans to be a bully in this one.
Yeah.
Give me the Saints by 10.
First matchup, he had 0 catches all game. So, that's one to keep an eye on.
Just like you said with Baker, how he's been through it and he wants to prove himself, you better look out.
Yeah, that's a revenge game for sure for Mike.
Denver in Minnesota. Denver's one of these teams who's in play for cap, and we'll get there in a second. But what do you think? Who comes out with this one?
I think Minnesota wins pretty handily. Brandon Allen is not good despite him beating the Browns, and I think he goes on the road and they lose.
Give me the Vikings by 20. Bills in Miami. This is a trap game if I've ever seen it.
Yep.
Brian Flores has got those guys playing. So does Fitzmagic. If you're Josh Rosen, you're like the kid in the corner right now, wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see the Dolphins upsetting the Bills in this one, but I'm going to stick to my guns, stick to the numbers. Give me the Bills by 3.
Right. Close one?
Yes.
I feel like if they win by 3, then their kicker, who shanked the game-tying kick against Cleveland, is going to have a big role, and I don't believe in him a little bit. So I think Miami wins their 3rd straight.
Colts, Jaguars in Indianapolis. Just a quick hit here. Who you got? I'm picking Foles in his return.
Foles is back. They win.
Detroit against Dallas. Who do you got?
Dallas.
I got Dallas. I mean, it's a hard pick because Dallas just lost to the Vikings. And you saw a lot of problems with the way they played in that game. But I think they bounced back.
Yep.
Give me Dallas by 3 or 4. See, the problem with this league right now is there's not a lot of blowouts unless you're playing one of the worst teams in the league. And 2 of the worst teams in the league play each other this week, and then one is going to get blown out again. So this is going to be a close game. Falcons at the Panthers, 5-4. Panthers need this win. Who do you got?
Falcons. I think they keep the momentum rolling. I'm not a big believer in Kyle Allen, so I think the Falcons win again.
Kyle Allen gets the job done at home. He proves that he is this starter for this team, and Cam Newton needs to go this week. They'll win by 14. Houston in Baltimore. Very intriguing matchup. 2 young quarterbacks, same draft class.
Yep.
A lot to prove here.
Lamar was the year after Deshaun.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That was... who am I thinking about in the same draft class? Rosen and all them. That's correct. But Watson and Lamar, this is a great storyline. Yep. Probably the 2 best quarterbacks out of their respective draft classes, except for Mahomes. I didn't forget about you.
Right.
Wow, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but give me Deshaun Watson in Baltimore. I think they pull out the win. And it's only because Deshaun Watson can play up to the teams that he's going up against. He can play up to their potential and talent. I think he throws the ball not all over this defense, but he figures out a way to fit it into the seams of this defense down the middle of the field. They get the run game going, and they end up with this win with Duke Johnson getting the end zone twice.
I think the Ravens win. I think they win by 10 points. I think their receivers not named DeAndre Hopkins are going to have a really bad day against Jimmy Smith and Brandon Carr and Marcus Peters. I think Marcus Peters finds the end zone again. D-Hop and Marlon will go at it, but their other receivers against the rest of that secondary, which is now healthy, I think they have a tough day. I think the Ravens win by 10.
Arizona and San Francisco at Levi Stadium. Arizona gave them a fight at home. Give me San Francisco by 20.
Yeah, I think they bounce back. That defense is, even though they got 4 takeaways, they're still going to come out swinging again. I think they win big.
We got a Super Bowl rematch. Patriots at Eagles. Who you got?
I really thought about Eagles here. I gave it a long, hard thought. But give me New England off a bye.
Yeah, you're not going to win a lot of things or a lot of chips in Vegas if you bet against Bill Belichick off of a bye. So give me New England in Philadelphia. Cincinnati at Oakland, 0-9. Will they get their first win here?
Nah, Oakland keeps it rolling.
I got Oakland by 20. Chicago at LA. Give me LA at home. I don't know. Actually, like I said to you, I said Jared Goff was due for an off week last week. And I told you that when we were talking about the game. And I think Jared Goff is due for a good week. And here's why. Mitchell Trubisky isn't playing Jeff Driscoll. He's playing Jared Goff.
Right.
Jared Goff's been to a Super Bowl.
Sure.
There's a whole different atmosphere in LA compared to in Pittsburgh for Jared Goff. He's at home.
Right.
This Bears defense isn't at home right now. They've proved that the defense can't win games anymore. And it's not because the defense is bad. It's because Mitchell Trubisky is atrocious.
Right.
So I got the Rams in this one by probably about a 5 to 7 point margin.
Give me Chicago. I don't feel confident in Jared Goff against any above average defense. So give me Chicago.
And that's our Sunday night game. And on the Monday night slate, we got a good game on tap. 6-4 Chiefs. 4-6 Chargers. The Chargers have snuckily gotten themselves back into the conversation for that division. I mean, you got the Raiders at 5-4, Chargers at 4-6, Chiefs at 6-4. Everybody's in the mix.
Yep.
Except for the Broncos, of course. Who do you think comes out on top?
I think Patrick Mahomes comes out, makes a statement. 4 touchdowns, maybe 5. I'm feeling 5 actually. 5 touchdowns, they win big.
I don't know if this will be a home game for Kansas City or not, like all the other Chargers games have been.
I'm sure it will be.
But if it is, I think it'll be a hard game for these Chargers to play in. I don't know why they keep giving them the national spotlight to play against teams in Los Angeles.
Right.
When it's not their stadium at that point.
It's any team's home field, but just
not theirs.
Beautiful weather.
Yeah. I think Phillip Rivers makes this division closer this week and pulls off the win against Patrick Mahomes.
Interesting.
All right, now we have time to move on to NCAA football, and then we're going to zoom through basketball afterwards, just because it's just a quick week for basketball.
Yep.
Go ahead.
College football, 3 big games this week. Georgia versus Auburn. For everyone who is also on the Alabama cannot make the playoffs committee, we need a Georgia win here. And I think they get it. Another big game, Oklahoma versus Baylor. Even though Baylor is undefeated, they're still behind Oklahoma. I think Jalen Hurts goes off, and I think Oklahoma brings home the victory. And then Minnesota, fresh off a big win versus Penn State. Trap game in Iowa. I think Minnesota wins. I think they avoid the trap very narrowly, though. They win by 3.
Give me Minnesota in that trap game, and then give me Oklahoma against Baylor, and then give me Georgia versus Auburn. We're both on the same page for college football. Let's move on to the NBA. When it comes to the NBA, James Harden. First of all, the funniest part of this game was Rivers trying to tee up his own dad. I thought that was hilarious.
That'll be a great Thanksgiving conversation.
Yeah, sitting at the table past the cranberry sauce. And he's like, I teed you up. I teed you up. But Harden dropped 47 points in this game. Is Harden their leading scorer, or did he just have a good night?
He's their leading scorer, and your best player in the NBA could not stop him once. He had 47.
Kawhi?
Yes, your best player in the league.
Okay.
Couldn't stop him. No answers.
P. Bev was guarding him for a majority of the game.
I mean, he got fouled out. He was in foul trouble all game.
P. Beverly was definitely, and if you don't know who I'm talking about, Patrick Beverly, was
Overrated.
Responsible for guarding him for about 30 of those points. So you can't blame it all on Kawhi. Once a player gets hot, how are you supposed to stop him?
I mean,
they are elite basketball players.
If you have a reputation that's like Kawhi does, you should be able to stop it. But that's one man's opinion.
Okay. Trae Young,
the first player under 22 to have 40 points and 10 assists in back-to-back games. The only 2 other people to do it, LeBron James and Michael Jordan. That's pretty good company for him there.
Now we're going to move on to NCAA basketball. And just like I predicted, everyone in the top 10 loses to everybody else who doesn't matter.
Right.
If I asked you where Evansville was earlier this week, could you have told me?
No chance.
Exactly. Evansville knocks off Kentucky. This is the epitome of what college basketball has become. We give teams these numbers and these stats and these rankings, and they don't matter.
Nope.
I think college basketball is a grown men's sport, but they have the minds I think they have the minds of a high schooler. They're just too young for it right now.
Especially Kentucky.
Yeah, and a lot of these teams are young. I think that some of these guys will be breakout stars this year, but nothing seems that appealing to me right now about the NCAA. It's not March. I think a lot of these teams have got to do something to get noticed. Evansville, you're on my radar now. I'm not watching your game this week.
Yeah, no.
But you're on my
don't
radar.
know where you are.
But moving on, Memphis. What's your opinion with that whole situation?
No, listen. I think it's fair to criticize the NCAA. I think players should be able to get paid regardless. But within the known rules of the NCAA, it's pretty wild for Penny Hardaway to literally move James Wiseman to Memphis while he's in high school. Like, that's a pretty egregious thing. And then they probably could have got a lighter suspension for James if they just cooperated with him like Ohio State did with Chase Young. He only got a 2-game suspension. But now James Wiseman is out indefinitely. They're going to appeal for reinstatement, but I highly doubt they're going to get it. So they were the 14th team in the country. They just lost yesterday to Oregon. I think they plummet even more without James Wiseman, and it's going to be a lost season for them, for the Tigers.
Yeah, I think it's a very dramatic storyline that could come to a very abrupt end if they say your season's done. And I think that very well could be what happens.
Yep.
And the last thing I want to get to,
Mm-hmm.
real quick, Colin Kaepernick.
Yep.
That's the NFL, we know, but we saved it till the end. Does he get signed Saturday or within the week of Saturday?
No.
I personally do not think that he will get signed. I think this is because NFL teams have asked, hey, we want to look at Colin Kaepernick, but then there's that barrier of, if I look at Colin Kaepernick and I don't sign him because he can't play well, then I'm a part of this huge argument, this huge debate, this huge topical issue,
Right.
just because I worked out an NFL player.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he is a talented quarterback in the NFL, and he should not be anything better than a second string right now. You give him a year or two in a system, maybe he can grow into a starter again.
Mm-hmm.
But I hate to say this, I don't think he gets the opportunity. What are your thoughts?
I think this is
A charade.
Yeah, it definitely is. Just for the NFL to look like, hey, we're extending the olive branch for you to get back into the league. Like they're holding it on a Saturday. Teams play on Sunday. Like, who relevant is going to go from these teams to see him work out the day before a game? This just seems, the whole situation seems funky to me.
It seems like a setup.
Yeah,
they forced him into that time slot, so
and they're not even giving him a list of teams in attendance, so he doesn't really know. They could just send random bodies from the NFL office in Falcons gear. And be like, hey, the Falcons showed up. So yeah,
you gotta remember, these guys are just scouts. These are not GMs. These are not head coaches. Put it on Saturday. There's football on Saturday this weekend.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a story where he's been compensated financially. I just want to see him compensated physically so he can do the thing he loves.
Yeah, he's talented. I want to see him back in the league. I want to see him try to work his way back into a starter as he once did in San Francisco. To be seen if he gets the opportunity to do so.
Well, once again, my name is Jacob Haugh, and I'm with
Shayne Williamson.
And you just enjoyed Jay and Shay Sports for Dummies. You guys have a great week. We'll see you next Thursday. And you guys have a great week.